How you date a woman with two heads? That's two personalities. In one body.
Hello, Chris, yes. There's a girl like that. Is that Chris? Chris.
Oh, they took the back seat and said, go, 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 go. Chris,
That's named Chris. You want to take to the doctor?
huh?
The one that takes the
Chris.
All right, it's group time, guys. So let us get ourselves started. All right. So one of the first things, real quick, just our normal home, housekeeping stuff. We're supposed to be in our seats by this time. Hopefully everybody has signed in, got your stuff ready to go, and hopefully everybody brought their book. We still have a whole lot of. Yeah, just gonna wait until y'all get through.
That's a whole setup, yeah. You're good.
How you doing this morning?
Doing good.
Good. Sorry, ladies, we will get started in a moment. We're having some issues here with movement and stuff like that. We're going to address that later on. But I appreciate y'all. Make sure your name is on the list over here. And then make sure you have your book with you this morning. If you don't have any of the things that are not allowed in the group, don't bring breakfast to the group. Don't have cigarettes stuck in your ear and stuff that's not even supposed to be in group. That has been addressed 3 or 4 different times. So don't do that. We don't allow that. So just don't do it. So if you have your book with you, we're on the second part of emotional health this morning. And again, this is a stage that we go through. It is not a day. So second one is insight and acceptance. Remember, the first thing we talked about spirituality was denial or avoidance. First, we just deny that we have any emotional issues, not spirituality, but emotional. We just deny that we have anything like that. And if we get to the point where we can't deny it, then we get to where we avoid it. Okay? We're going to try to avoid that. Now, we have some things going on here at this facility that are unavoidable. And I do apologize for that, but we're just kind of out in the open here. So when people come through, people walk through, there's no way to avoid that. That's going to happen because of the way that our facility is set up. But if you're going to interact with someone, go back into the dining room. Don't interact in the group room. If somebody comes up that you have to deal with, that you have to talk to and all that, go back there because we're starting group. So, and that's disruptive. So don't do that. So the first part of it was, a lot of people are in denial about their emotions. We had some of that go on yesterday when we talked about the emotions. We had people say, well, I don't have that emotion. Yes, you do. I don't deal with emotion. Yes, you do. We all do that. Secondly, we get to this place of insight and acceptance. At some point, we have some insight. What does insight mean?
A little knowledge.
Say it again.
A little knowledge.
A little knowledge. I like the way that he put that. He said just a little knowledge. That's pretty good too. Think about the word though. It says insight. I have some insight. That means that I am looking inside myself. I have some insight into a situation. So, if I have some insight into whatever situation it is, you've been willing to listen to either some professionals or to complete an assessment, accept some insight into your current emotional health. you have not yet moved toward treatment because of your emotional issues, but you are willing to accept the fact that there may be a condition there, that you have something that might need to be dealt with, right? And so, look, we all suffer from some of those issues that our emotions can cause us. I will let you know that I'm an emotional person, right? And you know why? Because I'm a human being. So you're an emotional person. All of the ladies over there, you guys are emotional people. It's not because you're female, it's because you're human. And it's not because you're male, it's because we're human. We all have emotions. So we're going to take a look at some of the emotions today. What do you think this is up here? Our goal today, by the way, is to learn something else, to learn something about our emotions and how we need to deal with them. You all right?
Yeah, that's where the sign that she was.
Okay.
Oh, right there.
We got 4 people leaving. All right, so here's the deal. Anybody want to tell me what they think this might represent? Nobody want to give it a shot? What do you think it represents?
Well, somebody just probably had that emotional being go through their head.
Okay. Yeah, that's a graveyard over there.
Is that a chain on the face?
That's a chain going across her guy.
Chain probably.
That's a dead tree over there.
Somebody hit her with a chain?
Somebody hit her with a chain? Now, this is representing, yes, sir.
Intrusive thoughts being pulled.
Intrusive thoughts being pulled through her brain by a chain. That's good. I'm gratified by that because that shows that you listen during the group on intrusive thoughts. That's not what it is, but I'm still I'm gratified that you remember that group. This is about addiction this morning. Emotionally, we are tied to addiction. And sometimes our emotions will lead us to addictions. And this is what we're going to be looking at today, how those emotions might be leading us to addictions. And this is the chain represents the addiction. You know, that we have that chain in our life, that thing that is holding us back or holding us down. And so we need to be able to look at that addiction. Sometimes this addiction is going to lead us to a place where it's kind of depressive. And, we have anxious ideas, or we get to a place of where we're depressed all the time. That's why we're in a place where we don't have any green trees. We don't have any bluebirds or redbirds flying. We have just only dead trees, and if there were birds flying, they would be dead birds. And then we have this place over here, which represents 2 different things. In our depressive state, this is just about all we see: death, despair, and all kind of crazy mess. And sometimes our addiction is going to take us to the graveyard, right? Tons and tons of people die in their addiction. When you have a drunk driver that goes out there somewhere and runs over somebody and kills them, or runs into a tree and kills himself, is that dying in your addiction? Yeah.
And another form.
Yeah, that's dying in your addiction. Doesn't mean that you're overdosed on the drug that you're using and died. It means that you died from your addiction because you were drunk, couldn't drive the car, and you had an issue. So we're going to talk about that just a little bit this morning, and we're going to explore our emotions. It's all about emotions this week. We're going to try a little bit more housekeeping before we get started. I'm not going to be here tomorrow or Friday. So I'll be here Friday, but I'm in meetings Friday, so we won't be having group. But tomorrow, I'm just not going to be here, so we're going to have a video tomorrow. It's going to be a really, really good one, because I know the guy that does the video, and he's really good. He's really good. So exploring my emotions for addiction. We'll take a real quick look at that. Sometimes here's the deal. If I have an addiction, and I'm here to tell you guys, I have more than one. Okay, I have more than one addiction. I do appreciate the fact that there were a group of people who really seriously sold out their lives to help me with my addiction to alcohol. So I can say that addiction is pretty much under control. There are other addictions in my life that's not so, right? There are some, y'all know I'm addicted to sugar and all of that kind of stuff. I'm doing better on that, but I'm still not in recovery on that. I am sometimes, and today I'm in sobriety with that. That means I'm not using right now. That doesn't mean I'm going to make it all day. I went to Market Basket yesterday on my way home. I needed to pick up something, and when I got into the Market Basket, guess what those people had in there?
Moon pie.
Moon pies. They had moon pies, and they had moon pies on sale. The moon pies were the triple moon pies, triple deck moon pies, and they had banana, vanilla, and chocolate. And guess what? They were 89 cents a piece. And usually those these are the big ones, they're like $4. So, your addiction says, how you going to pass something like that up? Yeah, it would just not be, morally correct for you not to do what you need. So I went ahead and I got me a banana one. And I said, hey, this banana one, look, you pick that banana one up. Have y'all ever seen a banana moon pie? You pick up the banana moon pie. Have y'all seen what it says on the front of that banana moon pie? It says on the front of that moon pie, it says moon pie.
What is a moon pie?
All right, look, just stop. I ain't believing that you're as old as you are. Don't know what a stinking moon pie is. That's not true. Go to the store, research moon pie. Here's the deal. On the front of that moon pie, it says moon pie. But it says it in such a way that it feels sad. So I'm thinking this moon pie, this banana moon pie here, is sad. So what did I have to do? To be a good, moral human being, what did I have to do? I had to get one of them chocolate moon pies to go with the banana moon pie. And so on the way home, first thing I did was, I'm going to eat this banana moon pie. I ate the banana moon pie. I ate that thing. Man, that banana moon pie, that was good. I relapsed on banana moon pies, and that moon pie was great. And then I said, okay, that moon pie, that's one of the best moon pies I've ever had. That's great. And then I said, well, yeah, that chocolate one is in there. I wonder which one is better, And I already ate, so I ate the chocolate one. And I'm here to tell you that the banana moon pie is the best moon pie. It's the best. It's the best moon pie. So anyway, I relapsed on that thing. So I am addicted to sugar. Now look, I pray about it and I ask God, and that's not all of my addictions. There's some others. And I pray about them and I ask God to take them away from me a whole bunch of times. But just like Paul, in the Bible, Paul the apostle had a problem. And it doesn't really tell us in there. It said he had a problem with his eyes. He couldn't see very well because when God knocked him off his high horse, he put scales on his eyes. I don't think he ever got over that completely because God wanted to leave a little thorn in the flesh for him. But there's other ideas about what it was. But he asked God 3 different times, take that away from me. And God said, no, my grace is sufficient for you. So I've asked God to take all of these addictions away from me, not 3 times, probably 303 times. And God every time has said, no, my grace is sufficient for you. But then there's another place that said, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So, I need to get a hold of the strength of God so that I can do all of that stuff and get to a better place. So those addictions, look, I'm still, I've been sober for a minute, but I'm still having issues with probably at least 3 serious addictions that I'm still working. Y'all know I'm in recovery from lying. And some other people in here need to get in. Look, if it ain't the truth, don't say it. Right? If it's nasty, don't think it. Right? If it's unreal, if it's not correct, if it's not, don't do it. There's some things we don't need to do. So exploring our emotions this morning for addiction. Addiction is often a powerful way to numb deep emotions and unresolved issues that are lying beneath the surface. While it may seem like a solution in the moment, and sometimes it is a solution in the moment. You know, when I was in my addiction for alcohol, anytime I had a problem, anytime I had an emotion, if I was angry, my feelings were hurt, anything, if I was depressed or anxious or anything, about a half a bottle of vodka would take care of it. So it was my big coping skill back in the day. You know, so I had to get to the place where, you know, I got to cope with all of these emotions that's going on without my major coping skill. That's why we have to come up with better and more gooder coping skills, right? And we'll be talking about coping skills in a later group. But while it seems like a solution in the moment, addiction becomes a harmful coping mechanism. Because what it's doing is masking feelings like pain, sadness, fear, shame, without really addressing them. We don't address it. That is why when we were talking yesterday a little bit about anger, we first off let people know this is where your anger comes from. And then you have to address them. We have a lot of people that get in denial about that. A lot of guys will poke their chest out like this. I ain't scared of nothing. And so then we have to deal with the lying. Once we get the lying out of the way, then we can deal with the fear, and then the anger usually just kind of goes away. It's not that big a deal anymore. So the numbing effect keeps us stuck. We can't move. We can't go anywhere. Avoiding the very emotions that need your attention for healing and growth. Let me ask you something. What do people lie about their issues? Yes, sir.
I would say fear.
Fear. Again, yeah, fear is right at the, I'm going to lie about it because I don't want to really face that issue. I don't want other people knowing about that issue. And when somebody tells audacious lies, you know, when somebody will tell you an audacious, what is that about?
Audacious.
Audacious means out, big old, huge, big old, can't possibly believe it lie.
Big fish lie.
What is it?
Big fish.
A big fish lie, yeah. Why would people do that? When it, you know, it's just plain obvious that everybody knows that that's a lie. Why would people do that?
Because they want to revere them.
They want them to revere them. Ah, yeah, that's a good, yeah, when I say something big, you know, yeah. Also, it's an attention getter because when I say something audacious, everybody goes, wow. You know, so that's why we do that. So beneath the surface of addiction lies hidden emotions, unmet needs, unresolved experiences that can drive those behaviors. To overcome addiction, y'all excuse me, I'm all choked up about it. It's crucial to explore these deeper layers and allow yourself to feel and understand the emotions that you've been avoiding. So, by addressing those hidden parts of ourselves, we can break free from the cycle of addiction and build a stronger foundation for lasting change. One of the reasons, why do you think people come to treatment facilities? I used to work for Centacor over in Deer Park. In the wintertime, our census would go up to 3-4 times what it was in summertime. Why do you think?
Getting out of the weather.
Yeah, it's cold out there. So people would come in and say, hey, I got a problem and I need, a lot of times people are coming in. Sometimes, you know, I've been homeless and I've been hungry. And treatment facility is a good place to get fed and full and get warm. It's a good place to do that. Some people come into a treatment facility for treatment. Right? Some people do. And those are the people that this is going to really help, because when we get to that place where we understand the foundation of our issue and we deal with the foundation of our issue, then everything else can be built on top of that. And, if we're trying to give somebody something, and this is one of the reasons we have so much recidivism. What does recidivism mean?
Coming back.
Coming back. Yeah, we have so much recidivism. We have people who've been in, this is the third, this is the fourth, this is the fifth time, because we haven't touched that thing on the bottom. We've dealt with the fact that, hey, I use drugs and alcohol, okay, but I haven't touched all the rest of this stuff. Right? I haven't talked about the fact that I have this deep-seated problem with my parents, or I have this deep-seated problem with authority, or I have this deep-seated problem with pain or depression or anxiety. I haven't touched on any of those. And so when I go back out, I'm sober. And I feel good, and I'm healthier than I have been, and I've been fed for a couple of months, and I feel really good. And when I go back out of this place, then all of that stuff that was there when I came in is still there. So I encourage you, and you don't have to do it, but I encourage you to attempt at least to deal with some of that stuff. Deal with it. Take a look at your life. Take a look at who you are. Take a look at what emotion is driving you. If it's anger that's driving you, you need to understand that's a secondary emotion, and you can control that just as easy as you can control picking your nose in public. You can control. You are the only one who can control your anger like that. We can lock you up and hide the key, but the only person who can control it is you. Now, some of those other emotions, we really can't control them the way that we can anger, but we can deal with them when we understand what they are and then admit it and then go there and work on it. We have to do that. Here's some of the things that are problematic. Addiction is just the tip of the iceberg. Now, you all know we've talked about the iceberg of anger, the anger iceberg, and we talk about, if I'm an angry person, all these emotions underneath the iceberg is what really is the issue. Not the anger. The anger is a response to all of that stuff. So here's the deal. If addiction is addiction's the same way. We have that same iceberg, and if anybody wants the iceberg, you can sure have it. I will make it after I do my notes, because I have to have the documentation to do the notes with, but I will be happy to give it to you. But here's addiction. These are some of the things that are out there in addiction. First off, substance use, right? We all know about substance use. We're using alcohol, cocaine, marijuana, whatever the drug is that changes our mood. And then in that also, we have a lot of impulsive behavior. If you go to the store down here, they're going to have, when you go up to pay for it, they're going to have all sorts of little things up there at the counter. There's all sorts of things up there. They have the lotto ticket right over here. And what color are lotto tickets? They're all different type of colors. But those colors are there to grab your attention and cause you to want to purchase that thing. It's an impulse buy. And merchants know that you are an impulsive human being. All of us are to some certain extent, some way more than others. But they put all of those little colored up things up there for you to make an impulse buy. A lot of the times, I've worked in retail for a little bit, and a lot of the time, what they'll do is this, whatever it is, this little widget that we have to sell here, we're going to put it up there, and it's for sale out there on the thing out there for $2. That's what you can buy it for. But let's put it up here on this thing here and put it on sale for $2.25. And people, that's on sale. An impulse buy will buy that thing for 25 cents more than it normally sells for, because the sign says it's on sale. So, y'all go sleep on me. Go sleep. I'm going to write you up. All that sleeping stuff needs to end. So, start helping you. So, here's the deal. So, there's impulse actions too, and there's compulsive behavior. What's the difference in an impulse and a compulsive behavior? Impulse is something I'm just going to do on the spur of the moment, right? That's why they have the impulse buying thing up there. I'm going to go up there and I'm going to see it, I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to buy it. Compulsive is sometimes I do the behavior and it appears I don't even have a choice because my limbic system is driving me to do it. I went to Market Basket yesterday to pick up some little item that I needed at my home, a little piece of tape, and then as I'm walking out, there's the moon pies, and it was a compulsion within me that you need that. My limbic system is yelling at me. You need it. One won't hurt you. Y'all notice I didn't wind up with one, and I wound up with two. And then one of the other things when we're in our addiction is look. Most of the time, none of these things are 100% because of outliers, but most of the time we get real secretive and we start to lie. We start to lie. And there are some people who are very good at it. I can guarantee you I can lie to you and make you believe it. Now, because I'm a good liar. And because I've practiced it for years and years and years and years and years, right now I'm in recovery. So if you don't want to know a thing, don't ask me. I'm in recovery from lying. I will tell you the truth. Now, there are times when when I know this is going to hurt your feelings or it's going to make you allow yourself to get angry or something like that, and I will warn you. I will tell you, look, you may not like what I'm about to tell you. So if you don't want to know it, don't ask it. If you ask it, I'm going to tell you the truth. So, but other times, it's just as obvious as the paint as the nose on your face that you're lying. Some lies are just egregious. Some lies are just goofy. Some lies are just, when you say it, people, well, that's not true. That is not true. When somebody comes in and says, hey, you know what? I was driving in to work this morning and I saw a 7-legged deer running down the road. All 7. No, you didn't. No, you did not. A 7-legged deer couldn't even run. They would die at birth. And, I saw it. No, you didn't. Yeah, and people know that. When you say that, they know that. So in our addiction, we lie. Here's the deal. What is the first thing we have to do when we get into our addiction? Into our recovery. We have to get honest. We have to get honest first with who? Ourselves. Get honest with ourselves. I will tell you, I have a problem. And that's a lie. I just told you a lie. I have more than one. I don't have a problem. I have several problems. And sometimes one will overpower the others. But I do have several problems that I'm having to work with. So lying is one of them. And so that's why I'm in recovery from lying. So when somebody tells me a lie, I will tell them that's a lie. Because that's just not true. And I'm not trying to hurt somebody's feelings. I'm trying to help them. But I let people know, look, if you're going to have a conversation with me and you're going to lie to me, if I can't tell it's a lie, then you're a good liar. If you're a poor liar, you tell me something that's just obviously a lie, I want to tell you that. But so if you don't want me to do that, don't talk to me. Or at least when you're talking to me, don't lie to me. Or at least when you lie to me, don't make it so obvious that a 4-year-old child knows you're lying. Right? Don't do that because I'm going to share it. But that's not, look, that doesn't mean that you're just a bad person. What that means is that your addiction has gotten you there. I have learned over the years that lying about this or lying about that is helpful to me. It helps me to defend my addiction. And when my limbic system is in charge and when my feelings are over my intellect, I want to defend my addiction. I don't drink as much as you think I do, ma'am. That's a lie. Yes, I do. I'm not as bad as all those other people. Okay. I didn't have anything to drink today.
Call lying by admission.
No, lying by omission, that's
Telling the truth.
admission. Omission is when I don't tell you something.
Or telling the
When
truth.
I come and you know, I know you need to know something, but I just don't tell you, that's lying by omission. When I'm telling you something, that's not omission. I'm telling you. Right.
It's telling the truth without the whole truth. Only enough to save you.
Well, that's another form of lying. So, and here's the other thing that we do is we withdraw from relationships. You know, we don't hang with the people that would help us. So if my wife or my husband or my mom or my brother or sister or my friend is trying to help me to get away from my addiction, we don't want to talk to that person.
Yes, sir. So, and you were saying the first thing to recovery is lie honesty to yourself. And so the second is getting away from old relationships.
Yeah, you know, we have to get honest with ourselves. And when he was talking about relationships. We talk about staying away from old people, places, and things. This is one of the places. Look, y'all hang with me for just a minute. Don't get upset. This is one of the places we lie to ourselves a whole lot about. We lie to ourselves about that all the time, because I will say unapologetically, if you go back out here and you go back to the same people, places, and things, you're going to relapse. You just are. You don't have much of a choice. Now, there's an outlier. There may be one or two people in the whole world that that's not going to happen to, but that's not you. So if you go back out there and do that, so what we do is we lie to ourselves pretty deeply. We say, well, that's not me. That may happen to other people, but I can go back to my old relationship. I know that my old relationship's a drug dealer. I know that my old relationship drinks a pint of vodka every day, but I can go back to that relationship and I'll be all right. And by the way, I may be able to help that person. I may be able to leave them out of there. And so we're lying to ourselves so that we can get back in the relationship where we know we're going to fail, because that's what we want to do. I ask the question a lot of the times, and you know, some people get a little bit offended. I ask the question a lot of the time, you're just talented, man. That's you can sit there and make noise by nothing. I mean, it just kind of happens around you. You know, I ask people how many people still have some using friends. You'd be amazed how many people raise their hand, and some people are proud of it.
I'm not proud of it.
Yeah, you know. So nobody, you're the only one in the crowd that raised their hand. But you know, if I still, why do I still have using friends? Anybody? Why do I still have using friends? Why do I still have people in my life that are still using drugs or alcohol? Wait back, Mr. Joker.
I said they ain't ready to change it.
They're not ready to change yet, but that's not why I've got them as friends.
Yeah, because you are allowing them back in your life.
Yeah, because you just want to allow them back in your life.
Sometimes you ain't feelings.
Sometimes you have feelings for those people. Yeah, I don't doubt that's the biggest one right there, because, you know, I love that person, right? I love that person, and I have real deep-seated feelings for that person. Yeah.
And so you're lying to yourself?
Well, yeah, we're lying to ourselves. We're telling ourselves, I love that person. And so since I love that person, I'll be able to go back and be around that person without losing my recovery. Now look, y'all don't get offended. The real reason that most of us still have using friends is we have that connection to that drug that we need. We know we're going to relapse, and we're going to go back out there to that person because that person has the drug that we need. And we all have all of these good, it doesn't matter if you believe everything or not. You don't have to, but it's the truth. Because if you go back to that person, you're going to relapse. And look, this is something that's a real truism. You know that. We all look, we're some brilliant people in here, right? We all know that. If I go back out there and hang out with Bubba, I'm going to eventually use. I may be able to go out and spend the afternoon with Bubba and never use. I might be able to do that. But if I go back the next day and the next day, before you know it, I'm going to be right back where I was before. It never fails. It's always the truth. It's going to happen. We know it. That's what we secretly, that maybe not right on the surface, but that's what our limbic system wants us to do. And so that's why we're going back to those people. And I have people tell me, well, I'm going to have to go back because I can't live without that person. Is that love? Is that a deep-seated love? What is it? It's codependency. Codependency is the disease itself. If you can't live without that person, that's codependency. And so that's not a good thing. So that's why we have those things. And look, I always have to point out that, there are those situations because there's always an outlier. What is an outlier?
Statistical anomaly.
An anomaly. Something entirely, completely different than the norm. So every now and then, somebody might be able to go back and do, the stuff they used to do before and not relapse. We can't look at the anomaly and say, well, they did it, I can do it. We can't look at that outlier and say, well, you know what? They did it, so I can do it because one person in a million did it, the other million couldn't. And the statistics show us that we are more than likely in the million, not the one. So, it's gonna happen. So we withdraw from healthy relationships. It's an amazing thing, and I've seen it 1,000 times. It's an amazing thing. People come to my office, or once they relapse, they come back and talk to me. I really love that individual. I really wanted to be with that individual. I really wanted to do whatever that activity was. I really needed to go back to that particular place. None of them were healthy. None of them. Not one of them. They weren't healthy. So they're not really in love with the healthy person. They're not really in love with the healthy activity. They're not really in love with the healthy thing. So they go back to old people, places, and things, and it bites them in the buttocks, and they come back. I don't know what happened. You did exactly what you were told not to in group, shaking your head, no, that's not true. And you go back out, you'll find out that it certainly is true. So, some of the things that are hidden, these are the things that are on the surface. These are the things that people can see. People can see that you're using. I used to eat a whole lot of breath mints. I stopped using bourbon for 2 reasons. Bourbon and whiskey would give me indigestion, and then you could smell it clear across the room. Somebody who was infinitely more wise than myself said, you need to switch to vodka, because you can't smell vodka. Can you smell vodka?
Yeah, you can.
Oh, yeah. You can smell vodka. And I guarantee you, if you suffer from ataxia, what's that? That's when you're stumbling around and doing all of that kind of stuff. People don't need to smell it to see it, right? They know you're using when you come in doing that kind of stuff. Impulsive behaviors, doing stuff impulsively or compulsively, lying. And look, once we get in here, what are we supposed to have already done? What's the first thing we're supposed to do is get honest with ourselves. What's the second thing? Get honest with other people. An honesty thing has to go out from, it's in here, it's in me. First off, I'm honest with myself, and then I'm honest with other people. I'm not going to lie about anything. And that helps me get away from lying about everything. And then I need to be looking, and people can tell, look, if you are withdrawing from every positive person in your life. Because the positive people in your life are going to tell you the truth. The positive people in your life are going to tell you, you can't go there. You don't need to be in the bar. You don't need to go. I have a guy that I was working with, and he still goes to the bar. He's an alcoholic and a cocaine head, and he still goes to the bar. He said, but I just go there to play pool. Is that true? Right now, he's just playing pool, but I guarantee you he's putting himself in that place with the old people, the old things, the old stuff that he was doing before, people, places, and things. He's right back in there, and he's white-knuckling it all the time. He's not going to make it. There's going to come a day when it's going to get hot. He's going to win that game. He's going to do something. Somebody's going to put a beer up there and say, congratulations, and it's going to go down his gully. That's going to happen. He's withdrawing from the positive people who are telling him not to go there. We used to have a group, an AA group in our church, and he used to come to that. But when we told him the truth, he left. And then he got real angry at the church. Okay. He told people, I hate that church. I don't doubt it. Because we were trying to lead him to a place where he can stay in his recovery, get him out of lying and all of that kind of stuff. He didn't care for that. So that's all the stuff that's out there. And everybody can see that you can't hide, but there are some hidden stuff below the surface that we sometimes overlook. Some of the time, we have some trauma in our life. I have some trauma in my life. My dad was an alcoholic. He was in prison more than he was at home. My dad was in prison usually more than the guards were, more than the officers were. He was there. Dad was an automatic trustee. We had back in Mississippi, we had what's called the county road. Y'all know what that is? They chain all these guys that are in the county jail together and walk them down the road, and they had to pick up all the trash and everything that's on the road. When my dad went to the county road, every time he'd rob a service station or something, he put him at the county road, had his own little house out there. They'd go put him in that little house, and when they were picking up the stuff, he was the one walking beside him. He wasn't picking up anything. He was just pointing stuff out. He was an automatic trustee. That's how many times he'd been in prison. My mom was a practicing witch. She did all kind of stuff, and she had some stuff going on there that was a little bit weird, So I had some trauma in my life when I was growing up. Didn't have any food. There were days we didn't eat for days at a time. We lived in this house, and then the rent would come due. We'd move to another house. Couldn't pay the rent, so we moved. We did a little bit of squatting. You know what squatting is? It's kind of slip into a house that's vacant, stay there until somebody catches you. No furniture, no food, no anything like that. Just something over your head so the rain and the cold didn't get you as badly. That was a little bit traumatic. So a lot of us had some trauma in our life, in our childhood, stuff like that. Unresolved experiences of abuse, neglect, or other painful events that happen in our life. That's what we need to go back to. We stop lying to ourselves. The reason I have all of these issues is because that happened to me. And what do I do when somebody calls some traumatic crap in my life? What do I do? What is it? Cope with it? Kind of hard sometimes to cope with all that mess, isn't it? Our use of drugs and alcohol is usually how we decided to cope with it. I didn't want to remember the junk my mama did. I didn't want to remember the junk my daddy did. So my sister was weird. My sister was a sexaholic. She was weird. But here's the deal. I didn't want to remember all of that kind of stuff, so alcohol and drugs took that away from me momentarily. So what we have to do, if we're going to do something about the trauma, and this is simple, but it is hard to do sometimes, go back and forgive every one of those people that caused any kind of trauma in your life. Just forgive. Now what we do is we take a big old piece of paper and we write down everything that they did to us. But she threw it down, and so she didn't have to interrupt the group. She didn't pick it up. Went that night. So we write it all down, and one of the things that I was taught very early in the counseling game was we either burn that, shred it, and bury it. You know, we don't give it to anybody. We don't send it to anybody. We write it all down. We get it all out. We forgive those people. Then we get rid of that so nobody else has to know. And in my heart and in my mind, they are forgiven. And that trauma will lessen, and then possibility of it going away completely. So when it's trauma, we can do something. We can do something about it. Most of this stuff, we can do something about it. A real big deal, one of the biggest deals for men is fear. Fear drives our anger issues. Fear also drives our addiction issues. So, anxiety, concerns about safety, all of that kind of stuff, those are some of the things that can drive an addiction. You know, because if I'm scared, guess what? You get that bottle of vodka, and what else is a bottle of vodka called? Liquid courage, exactly. You know, you take a couple of swigs out of that pint of vodka, and suddenly, you ain't scared of nobody.
Two spirits in a bottle.
Courage in a bottle. Yeah. So, you know, and that's what we're doing. A lot of the time we're using that drug so that I can mask the fear in my life. So if I can go back to that, build myself instead of a lot of fear, start doing some things to build some confidence in my life. Maybe, go back to school. Do something to build some confidence. Help somebody else and build some confidence in my life. That helps to get rid of fear. How about sadness? That's one of those things that's under there. Just having real deep sadness, depression, stuff like that. Feeling disappointed or experiencing loneliness. Nobody loves me. Everybody hates me. I might as well go eat worms or drink or do. Okay. So how do you deal with that kind of sadness and stuff like that? Get out of myself and go be with other people. Find a group or go to a meeting, go to a church, go somewhere, find some people. Maslow's hierarchy of needs says, I need people. You need people. Now, I will tell you this, that, we always figure out how many friends you have and stuff when you first come in. I'm one of those people. I don't have a lot of real close friends, but I do have 3 or 4. And those 3 or 4 are my good close friends. So when I'm feeling bad and when I'm feeling sad and all of that kind of stuff, one of my friends just had a birthday. He's the pastor of Family Life Center down in Kerrville. And I get with Charlie and say, hey, dude, and we talk. Last night, my brother lives in Mississippi, gave me a call. We talked for 18 minutes on the telephone about what? What do you think we talked about? What was it? Nothing. Inane stuff, asinine stuff. How you feeling? I feel good. Yeah, all of this stuff. Yeah, we just talked about whatever. How's the weather down there? We talked about my water bill. My water bill is $20 higher than it was last month. Why do you think that was? We had to drip the water because of the freeze. We dripped the water at my house for like a week, and it caused my bill to go. So my brother and I, that's something to keep us from being sad and lonely and all of that kind of stuff, and helping us to do that. Sometimes if you look back there and you figure out, hey, you know what? I was overwhelmed back there. There's a lot of stuff that can get in your life that will overwhelm you. Relationships will do that. Relationships can overwhelm you. Work can overwhelm you. Life itself can just overwhelm you. There's way too much going on. So if you're feeling stressed, overburdened, unable to cope with demands, what we do, we use the alcohol and drugs, and none of that matters anymore. So, What do we do about that? We have to do some stuff called self-care, which is one of the things I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm just going to take a break, take some self-care, just sit down somewhere, and just take some. I'm not overwhelmed on anything, but I just want to make sure that I don't get that way. So we need self-care is important. Take sometimes we need to take a break. Right? It's important to be at work every time you're supposed to be at work, but it's also important to take a break. Now we take a break from work, we take a break from all of it. We don't take a break from our recovery. A lot of people take a break from their sobriety because that's different than recovery, but we don't take a break from recovery. We're going to stay in that until, they plant us. So frustration is something else that's hidden below the surface, feeling powerless or unable to achieve goals. I just feel powerless. I'm frustrated. A lot of the times, if I'm frustrated, smoking a little dope would just take that away from me because it causes amotivational syndrome, which means I'm not motivated to do anything. It don't matter anyway. I'll sit on my couch and smoke dope. So so I don't have any frustration. The only frustration is that I don't have a job, so I don't have any money. So I can't buy no more dope. So that can cause a frustration. So how do we deal with that? We need to go back and look at what our goals are. And how do you eat an elephant? How do you eat an elephant? Elephants are big. How do you eat them?
One bite.
One bite at a time. One bite at a time. So you go back and look at that goal, and you take one step at a time. They've done something really good here, I believe. Going to crowd the skies a little bit. But, it's kind of hard to get a pilot's license. You got to go through all of this kind of crazy stuff. But now they have decided that you can be a sport pilot with just your driver's license. You go get a physical, and you have a valid driver's license, and then you can learn how to fly sport aircraft. Sport aircraft is a two-seater. You can't fly anybody in it for money, and you don't fly at night. You don't fly in bad weather. You go about 50 miles in radius around the airport that you're based at. So it's just for fun. It's just for fun. But if you've got your driver's license, you can go and learn how to get your license. You have to have a license. There's a sport pilot's license. So. Feeling powerless or unable to meet your goals, go back and reassess your goals. Go back and make them a little bit different. And so if you can do that, if you can move a little bit, it will allow you to feel better about yourself, and that's a good thing. The one other thing is shame. Back in the day, all of the stuff that I did when I was in my addiction caused me some shame, guilt, and remorse. That's one of the things that shows us that this is not a moral thing. We still have some morality because that's the one thing that hits us when we first get into our recovery is we're suffering from this guilt, shame, and remorse. And so we got to figure a way to get the guilt, shame, and remorse out of there. So the way to get the guilt, shame, and remorse out of, what's the best way to get rid of guilt, shame, and remorse? Use your drug. Whatever drug, if alcohol is your drug, go get a bottle of vodka. Drink that. That gets rid of guilt, shame, and remorse. But this is what's driving that. So we got to figure a way to get rid of guilt, shame, and remorse. And one of the things that keeps us feeling inadequate, unworthy, one of the things is, I know most of us have not read the big book, but there's a place in the big book that says you ought to make some amends. You know what making amends means? Yeah, paying back the people that you screwed over when you were in your addiction. Does that mean you go and say you're sorry?
No.
Well, you can. I did. I've gone and told people, this is what I did, and I'm sorry. What if you wrecked somebody's car?
Pay for damages.
I think at least that. You pay for the damages, you buy them a new car, you give them your car, you do whatever it is to make in. Going over and saying, hey, you know what, I'm really sorry I wrecked your car, I apologize. That's not doing anything to get them back and forth to work, is it? No, no. So we need to go make amends. As I make amends, that helps me more than it helps the person that I'm making amends to. Because they may not accept that. They are not required to accept that. When you go over there and say, "Look, I'm sorry. Here's $100. This is what I cost you guys when I came and did, or here's $100,000, whatever it was that I cost you." They can say thank you, but they don't have to say, "Okay, you're forgiven." That's not on them.
Priceless art.
Say it again.
What if it's priceless or sentimental money?
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. You have to go back and say, look, I tore up your priceless thing. I know that was a mean vase that I broke in your home. And there's not a thing you can do about it except to offer your heartfelt apologies. They don't have to accept that. It's not for them as much as it's for you. Now, if they accept it, it's going to help them. They'll feel good about it. But you're going to feel a whole lot better about it because you're doing something that you're supposed to be doing, and it'll help you with the guilt, the shame, and the remorse. That stuff will lessen, and it will maybe not completely go away, but it will go away a lot. So, and after that, you won't feel so inadequate and so unworthy. So, speaking of inadequate and unworthy, let's take a break, and we'll be back about 15 minutes after, and we'll finish this thing up.
First I said, bro. You follow along.
I've been waiting to
One time I stood up with 36 hours. My pores smelled like coffee. I didn't know how strong instant coffee was. Dude, I cranked that shit down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And we're trying to figure out where all the money is. Oh, okay. I have, but he gave Jordan, and he brought Jordan back too. Right?
last day, I pulled up a race. I think on his side. That's green onion, bro. Eat green onion. This is my question. Red, that's like the single sunset. That's what we should start. Side shit. Oh, cool. I guess I don't. What is it? Oh, that's macaroni and cheese. Macaroni and cheese. Okay.
No, man, but I will be.
So, let's see.
I didn't sleep at all last night, man. I'm in pain, tossing and turning all night. You? Oh, yeah, this is so cold.
Stuck to the bottles.
You would think considering
Yeah, yeah.
No, sir. That was not your one involved here?
All right, enough time. All righty then. You for those of you who showed up, appreciate it. We're going to get started again. One of the things that I want you to know, we have a gentleman that's leaving today. Today's his last day, and we always do what we call rocking people out. So we're gonna shut the group down just a little early, so we'll have time to do that. We enjoy just giving a little bit of advice and giving them a free gift. Uh, we always give guys, and I know y'all may not do this over there at North, ladies, but over here when guys leave, we give them one of those 65-inch televisions to take with them. And you know, some people get a car, stuff like that. Usually not, though. They usually leave with a rock, a little a little pebble with some words of wisdom put into them. Other people that uh, we want to use a brick bat, but they won't let us. So just a few more little things that are underneath the uh, addiction iceberg. Some of those things, and here's the thing, as an LCDC and a professional addiction counselor, headed toward being a MAC, all of those things. MAC is a master addictions counselor. That's where I'm headed. One of these days, just to do it. This is a really important thing for us to do. This is one of the things that we a lot of times don't do. And in this facility, we attempt to do is to find out that underlying issue. And if we can find that underlying issue, because here's the deal. If you leave from this facility and if you leave from North Point and you get out there and life gets you by the yin-yang and you wind up relapsing, are you able to come back? Yes. Yes, absolutely. We're here for you. We're not leaving. We're not going to go away anywhere. You are welcome back. There was a gentleman who told me the other day that, yeah, you guys invite people back or you want people to come back once they've relapsed so that you can make more money off of them. That is entirely incorrect. What we want to do, and one of our greatest goals, is for you to get whatever you need while you're in here, figure out what that underlying issue is, deal with that, and never, ever, never, ever come back here. You can come back after a while. We don't want to. We're happy for you to come back and visit and do stuff like that. Come in through the front up there and come back to the back. But we don't want you coming back here as a client. We want this to take. We want it to work for you. Okay? And what works for you is going to work for us. So we would love to work ourselves out of a job. That would be fantastic if my boss called me one day and said, "Hey, look, we don't need you anymore. There's no clients. Everybody got into recovery and nobody's relapsed." That'd be great. Yeah, because I have to go sit on the beach, and I don't even like the beach. The beach we have down here, if you tell somebody you're going to take them to the beach, it's an insult. Don't take them to the beach.
What's got beach cabin?
Say it again.
What's got beach cabin? But it's actually enjoyable.
This beach down here is just nasty. But the beach in not California, the beach in Florida.
That's my dad's from, Miami.
Yeah, no doubt. So here's a couple other things. We're going to get through these really quickly. And like I said, we'll quit 10 minutes early or something like that so that we can get this rocking out thing done. Loneliness. This is one of the big things. If I get out there and I'm lonely, then this is one of the things that's going to lead me back to those old people, right? What do we do when we get sober? We go back to doing the things we know how to do. We get back into our ritual. We get back. This is something that I have built over the last 20, 30, 40 years. And so somebody's saying, hey, you have to change your ritual. You can't do what you've done over the last 30, 40, 50 years. And that's kind of hard to do sometimes. And so, we get lonely. We really don't know how to meet new people. So what happens is we wind up going back to the same old people and doing the same old things in the same old places, and that's what happens. We get back into that same old crowd, and we're gonna mess up. So feeling disappointed or experiencing loneliness, this is one of the reasons people use to start with, and this is one of the biggest reasons that we relapse. Remember what Maslow said. This is one of the 5 basic needs. This is one of the things we've got to have. This is one of the things that decide whether or not we're going to live, and that's human companionship. We got to have people in our lives. That's just the way that is. It's not an if, and, or but. We got to have people in our life, and we will. Now, what's problematic is a lot of the time we're going to have the wrong people in our lives. What we need to be able to recognize are the wrong people. Sometimes when we're headed back out of here and we say, don't go back to old people, places, and things, those old people that we have that soul tie with, that we have that we love them, we care for them, we've been through a whole lot of mess with them. They are the wrong people sometimes. And look, I realize, and every counselor you're ever going to run into realizes that's a hard thing. It's a hard thing. That's why it comes first. We got to get rid of old people. A lot of times we get rid of old places and old things. I don't necessarily go back to Bob's Bar and Grill, and I don't necessarily play pool down there anymore. But it's hard to tell Bubba or Bubette, I can't hang around you anymore, because we love that. So somebody tell me what love is.
Love.
Emotion. It's a dopamine. What did you say?
There's oxytocin.
Oxytocin.
It's that one thing
Yeah.
we need.
Serotonin.
It's pheromones. So you have pheromones in your body that when you do something that you enjoy, they get stirred up and they get, and that makes you want to redo that activity again. And so when you meet somebody that's, when you meet them, all of a sudden your pheromones are all stirred up and all of that kind of stuff. And you just, you feel like you have to be around that. Let me tell you something about that. Yeah, let me tell you something about that. If this person here can stir up your pheromones, there's somebody else over here that can do the same stirring.
Well,
You just have to give yourself. The difference is if this person, you allow this person to stir up your pheromones, the fact that this person is using drugs and alcohol, right? That's going to be a problem for you. But if you go over here to this other person, that one is going to stir up your pheromones. But they're not using drugs or alcohol. That's the right person. I just need to look and see if that relationship, that person's in my life, do they have a relationship with drugs or alcohol? If they have a relationship with drugs or alcohol, okay, go there. Had a guy tell me his wife she's really a good dancer, and that she wanted to go dancing, and that's what she did. She was a dancer. They went out to the bars and stuff like that so that they could dance. She didn't even drink, but he was an alcoholic, and so she was taking him to the bar. And he said, how do I deal with that? What do you think we did?
Not going to bar.
Yeah, they did eventually stop going to bars. They're still together as far as I know. They stopped going to bars. But there are places around here they're called ballrooms where you can go and you can dance your buttocks off and never have. It's not a bar, it's a ballroom. And they don't have booze and all of that kind of stuff unless somebody rents the hall and they have booze. But you can go in there and dance, and it's just a good thing. So they just figured out another vehicle to use in order for her to have what she needed in her life and him to have her in his life. So when somebody cares about you, they will be able to make, and they will be willing to make, and they will even desire to make whatever changes they need to make them healthy for you. If they don't want to make those changes, they're not healthy people. They don't care that much for you. You might think they love you like you love them. That may not be true. May not be true. Yeah. Just because you love them. That takes me back to Melody Jackson. Y'all remember you talking about Melody Jackson? She's the one who told me when I was 12 years old that I stunk, that I needed to take a bath. Okay. Same little girl you fall in love with doesn't mean she's going to fall off in love with you. There was a young lady when I was in high school, and I thought, man, she is the cat's meow. She's just beautiful. It's just magnificent, And I told her that, and you know what she told me? I said, you're so beautiful. You're so magnificent, wonderful. You smell good, everything. And she said, I got a boyfriend.
That's when you leave it alone.
So, okay. All right. So, have to move on. So just because, so if you go out there and you have somebody in your life that you think you can't live without, but they prefer their booze and they prefer their drugs over you, okay, you need to learn how to live without them because you're not going to stay sober in that situation. So, another deal, one of the reasons a lot of people start using, and that's the bellwether of addiction, is that somewhere at some time we started. We had to start, and then after a while we figured out we couldn't stop. We got started. Starting is pretty easy, but stopping is a bad thing. So, a lot of time it's driven by grief. I had a guy in my group over in Baytown who had like 13 or 14 DWIs. And I was trying to figure out how on earth can you get that many? Because once you get 3 or 4, you usually go to state jail. They're going to put you in state jail for about 5 years. And I agree with that. Yeah, you don't go to state jail for 5 years. But he had 13 or 14 of them. So I'm asking him, how on earth did you do that? How could you do that and not be in jail? He said, well, only 2 of them's in Texas. And all the rest of them are in, I've got one here, one there, all around. And he was a very wealthy guy, and he had a very good lawyer. So, all of that kept him out of it. But he would get a DWI just about every year. Once a year, he got drunk. Once a year, just once a year. But he would do that on the anniversary of his wife's death. She died. She had a stroke or heart attack or something, and she died in his arms.
Oh, wow.
And that's got to be hard. That's got to be hard. And this was 13, 14, 15 years ago, and he was still grieving all of that. And I told him, I said, look, dude, that's a really good way to honor the passing of your wife by getting drunk, going out and getting a DWI. I'm sure she's proud, But a lot of time, grief can be a driver of us using something to tamp down the feelings of grief. And I can understand that. Grief is not a good emotion. It does not feel good.
At least he's not going out and getting a new wife every anniversary.
Say it again?
I said, at least he's not going out and getting a new wife every anniversary. He's just getting drunk.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't.
But that could be very possible on his end.
I guess.
All that money.
I guess, but you never want to say at least. When you say at least, what does that do? It justifies whatever they are doing. Well, he did all of this kind of stuff, but at least he killed nobody. Okay, that's ignorant. Okay. No, he was totally, terribly, and completely and utterly wrong. And so we just need to know that. We don't need to allow grief. What do we need to do with grief?
Handle it.
Let it run its course. Let it run its course. Don't use it as an excuse for bad behavior, which is what he was doing. And that's what we do when we go out and we start using drugs and alcohol and stuff because we're grieving, because our dog got run over or something like that. All of that is a good excuse for bad behavior. So we need to grieve. Now, here's the deal. Everybody grieves their own way, right? I've seen people grieve very quietly and dignified. No, I've seen people screaming and yelling because they were in a place of grief. But we need to deal with it. We need to work through it. There are those 5 stages of grief. We'll go through the 5 stages. And I'm a complicated grief therapist, which means the stuff past the 5 stages. Because after the 5 stages are gone, people stay in grief and they do all of those kinds of things. But no matter what we are, my wife and I have been married. Next month will be 53 years. And so, we've been married a long time. If she passes away before me, do you think that's going to cause me some grief?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I don't know where I don't know how to pay all the bills. I don't know where all the money is. I don't know anything. So she's dealt with all of that stuff, and she's one of those people who don't want to talk about any of that kind of stuff. So broaching the subject of, okay, where's all the bills getting, I'm just not able to do that. I'll have to figure it out. If I may pass away before her and it'll all work out. So grief, deep sorrow, and unprocessed loss can lead us to use alcohol and drugs. If I'm using drugs and I look back and I think, okay, the reason I began to use those drugs, in the beginning, the reason I began to use that, the genesis of that, was when my mother died. When she died, or when my dad died, or when, whatever happened, if that's what it is, that means I haven't really truly processed that. I've pushed it down by the use of drugs and alcohol. And so, I need to get to the place where I process it. I've had people in my grief class angry. So I tell them, well, that's a good thing, because once you get through the grief class, you need to go over here and sign up again and pay to go through the anger. Yeah, that's to go through. We're going to double dip on you a little bit, But no, I've had people in the grief class that's just angry. Who are they angry at? The person who died. They're angry at whoever, their husband. There's a lady 35 years old and her husband had a heart attack and died. She's angry at that guy. She's ticked off at that guy. That was the love of her life. And now he had the audacity to die. And, he got up one night to go to the bathroom. He was 40 years old. Got up, went to the bathroom, and she heard him fall. And she went in to check on him. He was dead. So it took her about 5 years, and then she got remarried. Guess what happened? After about 10, 12 years, that guy fell over dead.
Oh, wow.
So I told her, look, I'm just going to put it in the paper and everything. People they don't need to come, just don't go. You're kind of deadly. But we need to process that stuff. And if we figure out that, hey, this is what's going on, then I can process my grief, and that's going to help me not to relapse. Because when I get out there and here comes my limbic system saying, hey, you need to use, you can go back and say, no, I've processed all that grief. That's gone. I don't have to deal with it. So, one other place, and it's a big one, and it's anger. A lot of people are using drugs and alcohol because of anger. Strong feelings or frustration or resentment or all of those kinds of things. I've had people in our group, I'll drink if I want to. I'm a full-grown man. You can't tell me. Okay. Or the wife or the husband says, look, you drink too much and we drink more because we're angry, because that person had the audacity to say something about my drinking or my using, all of that kind of stuff. Or we began to, when we're angry, we go and drink out of the fact that we're just angry. What happens when we drink like that? Or what happens when we use drugs like that to tamp down the anger?
Then you use a lot more.
Probably destruction.
Yeah. One of the things, and you're right, you use a lot more. One of the things that we began to do is convince ourselves that we're angry. We will look for reasons to be angry. If I want to use, I'm going to look for a reason to be angry. I'm going to get angry at this person, angry at that person. I'm going to get angry at the dog, angry at the cat, angry at whatever. I'm just going to get angry because I know that if I get angry, I'm going to use. So I get angry, and then I use that as an excuse to use. And so it's a cycle. I'm angry that I'm using, and I'm angry. So, that's what's going to happen if we get out of here and we get out there back into the world and we're thinking about, hey, I'm going to go over here, I'm going to do that. And then something happens to make you a little bit angry, and then, everything's thrown out the door. Why is that? All of the training we've done for the last 14 days, what is it? 45 days. 45 days. All of the training that we've done for the last 45 days goes out the window. Why?
We made an impulsive.
We made an impulsive decision. What happens when you get angry?
Your IQ drops.
Your IQ drops. Thank you, Mr. Yeoman, for paying attention in class months ago. But when your IQ can drop up to 40 points, you know, and if you got 110 points and you drop 40 points off 110, what's that?
Retarded.
About 60 points. Here's the deal. Yeah, you are at that place of retardation because 70 is retardation. And so you're way down there somewhere. And we know in our knower that if we go back to using, it's going to destroy our lives. We know that. It's almost already destroyed our lives, and we're looking for one more chance, and so we've come in and done all this kind of stuff, but we go out there and we allow ourselves, remember, nobody can make you angry. You have to allow yourself to get angry. So, since we've allowed ourselves to get angry, our IQ drops by 40 points, and what will you do? We will allow our emotions to get over our intellect, and we'll do what?
Act irrationally.
Yeah, we'll do anything we want to do. And what do we want to do? We want to use drugs. So we'll do anything we want to do. We'll use drugs. We'll go out there and, go any place we want to, get back with those folks who just are not, people that we need to be hanging around with and all of that kind of mess. And before you know it, we're right back where we are again. This is one of the reasons that if I feel like I have an anger issue, I need to learn to deal with it. And you can. I've had people tell me probably 1,000 times, I can't help my anger, yes, you can. Yes, you can. You want to. That's another good excuse for bad behavior. You want to let people know. You want to tell people, I'm incapable of dealing with my own emotions. That's a crock. Of course you can deal with your own emotions. If you couldn't, everybody'd be dead by now. We'd all be killing one another. We all deal it. You are right now sitting here in this group dealing with your own emotions. So you don't want to be here. You may be wanting to get sober and all of that kind of stuff and stay that way. That doesn't mean you want to be in my class for 2 hours every day, But you are, and you're sitting here, and instead of getting angry about it or frustrated about it or starting to cry because your feelings are hurt or something like that, you just do it because you are dealing with your own emotion. You do that every day, all day long. And if you don't deal with them, then somebody else will. People will help you. Some of them are big guys with guns and all that kind of stuff. But somebody will help you deal with it. So there's never an excuse for any of that stuff. So a few more minutes here. Anger's a big one. We need to know that's a big one. There are some positive ones. We're not going to go over there, but we have a worksheet on the positive one, positive emotions and other emotions. But we're not going to do that. Does that sound all right? So here's the deal. We can develop healthier responses to all of these emotions. Based on deeper emotions, consider alternative ways to response that address those feelings without resorting to anger. So what could you do different next time? It is important. Anytime that y'all get hold of it. Anytime that you slip over into anger, you have stepped too far. You've gone too far in a negative direction. You just because remember, anger brings your IQ down. Will allow you to do it. Why would God put something like that in us? A mechanism that when we get angry, our IQ drops. It allows us to do what we have to do. I've told a story about the bear jumping on the girl. They're walking through the woods, and the bear jumps on the girl. The guy takes off running, attacks the bear, punches the bear in the face. Now, the bear had already bitten the lady a couple of times. He went up, and he just engaged the bear in fisticuffs, punched the bear 4 or 5 times. The bear turned loose and ran off in the woods. Now, I think he was very fortunate. Because the bear usually gonna eat your butt, but he was very fortunate The bear decided, okay, this guy's nuts, and he took off running down through the woods. The deal is that the bear was correct. The guy was nuts. He got angry when he saw that bear on his wife. His IQ dropped 40 points. It didn't make him any difference. It's, I'm about to be killed. Let's go do it. You know, because his IQ is gone. His muscles had all of the blood that it needed. Everything is, you know, all of that fight or flight thing come up, and yonder he went. Same thing happened on the beach where a shark got a hold of this guy's kid, and he did the same thing. He into the beach, got a hold of this big old shark, dragged shark and kid up on the bank. Well, pull him up on the beach, and he's beating the shark all the time. Other people came and pried him off of him, got the little girl out of the shark's mouth, and then, you know, I don't know what happened to the shark. I'm sure they just crucified him. You know, but that's why God put that in you, so that you can do some impossible stuff if it's what you need to do. But the other thing that makes it really bad for us is that when we do get angry, we lose enough intelligence to keep control. Had a guy in my class, in this last story we're going to tell, had a guy in my class. He got angry at his wife about something. She took the kids. They had a little Mustang. She put the kids in the Mustang, and she got in the Mustang. They're leaving. He's angry at her. Took his AR-15, started shooting at the car as they were pulling out. One of the bullets hit the headrest right there. 2 kids in the back seat, wife in the front seat.
Oh, God.
He was angry. You know, his IQ, it takes you to be at a place of retardation to do something like that. And he was court appointed to be in my class for 2 different classes, anger management, he had to go through that, and then domestic violence, had to go through that. But they took away every weapon he ever owned. Never going to get it again. He was court mandated to go through both of those classes. And then, after he went through both of my classes, he still had to go to court with the possibility of going to prison for 5 years. You know, I mean, yeah, very, very fortunate. They didn't kill everybody in the car. You know, and I think why he didn't, he's a pretty good shot. He would just shoot, you know, I want to teach her a lesson. That's what happened. So if we allow ourselves to get angry, we're going to use it. So here's the deal. If possible, now look, this is all talking about anger, so this is the biggest one. If possible, physically leave the situation or environment that's triggering you. We talked about that yesterday. Distance can help reduce the intensity of the craving and give you time to regroup. Get away from it. If you see that partner of yours, you see that friend of yours you used to drink with, or you get the heck out of there. Move, get away, go somewhere else. You don't need to be in that situation. If you feel that craving coming, you need to be leaving. Take some deep breaths. We know that works. Ground yourself with the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. What's that? Oh, come on. See, you asleep, and that method just woke you up right in the middle. I saw you were dreaming. I saw you twitching, and you woke up when I said, ground yourself with it. It says, look, identify. It's all mindfulness is what that is. Identify 5 things you can see. And here I see lights, television, desk, table, chair. I don't know.
Okay. It's out of anger or emotion. So it allows you to cope your mind to your surroundings, objects, like kind of touches.
It's just basic mindfulness. Just come up with 5 things that you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear. I can hear Q in the kitchen.
All day long.
All day long. I can, right now I hear some kind, I think that's the ice machine that I hear. But I can hear the ice machine working. And I hear something else. I have my hearing aids on right now. I hear the air conditioning. So I can hear pretty well. 2 things you can smell. Again, a lot of the times I smell something that Q's doing in the kitchen. Sometimes it says, smell scrumptious. Sometimes it don't. but I can smell some stuff in there. And one thing I can taste. You just go down through that. Now, what that does is refocus your mind, like you were saying, refocuses your thinking, gets you away from that desire to use or to get angry, and then call a trusted friend, family member, sponsor, therapist, somebody like that. Engage in something that occupies your mind and your body, such as exercise. I'm a big proponent of exercising. Exercising is the best thing you can do. If you're anxious, if you're depressed, if you're craving, if you're getting angry, any of that, exercise. Exercise is going to work you out of it. One thing is cleaning. Miss Charnel was telling me that she had cleaned the house all this weekend and she was sore. I told her I was going to clean my house this weekend, but I lost my shovel. So, so gradually, replace negative thoughts with affirming ones like, this feeling's going to pass, this is not going to last forever. And it takes about 8 seconds for that craving to leave. Think about why you're committed to recovery. Visualize the positive outcome of staying sober, like improved health. Anything you put in your body is going to be unhealthy. Alcohol is not healthy. There's nothing healthy about it. Smoking is not healthy. There's nothing healthy about it. Any drug you put in your body is unhealthy. Even the ones the doctor gives you, they're unhealthy. They're not designed to heal you. They're designed to keep your symptoms under control. That's all they are. So relationships are going to be better if you have all of that under control. And your own personal growth is going to be better as well. So those are some good things to think about. The big thing I want us to understand is that I'm addicted for a reason. I'm addicted for, there's something there that's driving my addiction. And I need to take a look at that and figure that out. Just getting sober never works. And of course, outlier again. Just getting sober never usually works. Because I'm going to go right back to the same old junk and it's going to hit me. I need to know what that basic thing is. Why do I use? Because I'm scared? Because I'm afraid, I'm tired, whatever it is. Something. Would you go let Charnel know we're going to shut down if she wants to do that? Yeah, just go tell Charnel we're about to shut down if she wants to do the rocking thing. And I'll be over there after a while. I don't know what time, but I'll get over there sometime today and get all that stuff. I appreciate it. Y'all been doing a really good job on those sign-in sheets over there. Thank you. And I will be over there. But just remember, whatever that bottom thing is, it can be dealt with. You can deal with it. And once you deal with it, you may not have to deal with the addiction. If you can deal with that, you may not have to deal with the anger. If you can deal with that, everything else may fall into place. If it doesn't, it's going to lessen at any rate. Now, we're going to close the group down. Did you tell her?
Yes.
Thank you. Well, we're not running off because we're going to rock out one of our members who